What's up, folks? So, I just wanted to reflect a little bit on that Game Changers documentary everyone's been talking about. I saw it on Netflix the other night, and most documentaries these days are woefully unscientific, but this particular one, the references with citations were very strong, the source material was very strong, basically presented a very strong scientific case for why eating a plant-based diet is better than one that's omnivorous or includes meat and animal products. And this is something that's been bothering me for months, if not years now. When that vegan movement first occurred, they got a lot of flack for it, a lot of shit for it. They still do, but there's definitely, statistics show that's definitely a movement in that direction. A lot of people are switching to a plant-based diet these days for multiple reasons. There's some who don't do it for any particular moral reason. They just do it because the science very clearly shows that it's healthier. And that there's really no truth to the idea that meat tastes better. When you know how to cook vegetables properly, you can have a totally tasty diet. And then, of course, there are the people who do it in the more vegan sense of the word, reducing harm to animals and to the environment. And I don't know where I'm going with this, but it's something that's been weighing on my conscience for quite some time now. Now, I don't necessarily have a problem with animals eating other animals and human beings being an animal. What I have a problem with is dishonesty. What I have a problem with is people lying about why they do it. Because the idea that you need to do it for health reasons is clearly a lie. I only really became aware of this recently. There's a heart disease genetic problem in my family, and I have high cholesterol. Kind of regardless of what I do, I have high cholesterol. And so I've been forced over the last year or so to do a lot of study into the scientific research as to what the best thing to eat is for your heart. And the science is very fucking adamantly clear on this, that a Mediterranean diet, as it's called, is the best for heart disease. And this particular diet has almost no meat in it, though they do recommend salmon for the good fats, but you can get those good fats from supplements and avocados and stuff as well. And from what I read, it really looked like they were throwing salmon in there for the people who didn't want to give up meat. But ultimately what they're saying is just eat plants. Get your protein from lentils and so on, and just eat plants if you want to live longer. And it was really uncomfortable for me to do this research because I'm like, come on, where's the one that says I can have steak? And I just couldn't find it, because despite all the hype you see on the media around, the mockery of veganism and, the advocacy of eating meat, there's really no substance to that argument. Essentially, it's worse for you to eat meat than to not, in nearly every case. And there are always going to be costs and benefits to any type of diet that you stick with, but it's clearly better to eat plant-based. So there's no scientific debate for meat, for eating animal products, even dairy of any kind. But what about the kind of moral one? And this is where I really had the dilemma. There's a book I read quite a while ago. I'm just going to close the door here. So there's a book I read quite a while ago, Ben Elton book, Dead Famous. And there's a character in the book who's this kind of hard-out hippie, obnoxious, tree-hugging type. And what he does is he has this debate in the book about people killing fleas. He has fleas. He's living in this kind of big brother house, and it bothers everybody. He's got fleas. And there are people who are against fox hunting who are trying to kill his fleas. And he says, well, what's the difference between a fox and a flea? Why is it okay to kill my fleas, but it's not okay to kill foxes? And I thought, well, fuck, that's actually a pretty fucking good question. Like, how is it that we draw the line where some animals are okay to be murdered and other ones not, regardless of whether or not we eat them? Like, why is it, there's so many friends of mine who are like hard out meat eaters, and yet they think it's wrong to hunt whales, or they think it's wrong for Chinese people to eat dogs. And I'm like, well, how did you come to that sort of moral relativity where some animals can be murdered for sport or for meat, and others are like, protected. And I've even challenged certain what I'd call pseudo-vegans, people who are vegan just so they can have the label. These people will slap a mosquito. I'm like, well, why is it okay to kill the mosquito but not a chicken? Where do you draw that line? Now, I'm not really going anywhere with this, but this is just the kind of dilemma was raised for me, because the thing that stood out to me most in the documentary was there's the guy who hunts poachers, right? So there's this guy in the documentary, he's an ex-military dude, and he's got like a company where they go out and protect like endangered rhinos and stuff from poachers. And there are very few people on the planet would say that that's a bad idea, protecting endangered animals. And yet he noticed this dilemma, because he'd be protecting endangered animals in the morning and then eating other animals in the evening. And he said the way he said is like, I was full of shit. And for me, that was the most significant part of the whole documentary, because you put all the science aside and all the debates and you just say, look, are you full of shit? And for me personally, I am. If I think it's okay, if I don't think it's okay to stomp on a puppy, why do I think it's okay to eat a cow? How am I cool with that? It doesn't make sense philosophically. It doesn't make sense morally. It's like I have selective morality. So this is, I'm not going anywhere. I'll still eat meat. I'll be having meat for lunch, I haven't quite made a shift here, but I guess what bothers me most about all of this is I have some friends who are heavy into hunting and meat and stuff. And they're not honest. Like, if they want to eat meat, just say it. Say, I'd like to kill animals for food. But then you kind of deprive yourself of the right, I think, to complain about any animals being murdered for any reason. Right? You can't say it's okay for me to eat this chicken, but don't hunt the whales, Either be against all animals, including humans, which are another animal. So murder of your own children should be fine, because it's just an animal being killed. This relativity of morality. I'm not sure. I'm really open to debate and ideas around this. But it really it doesn't sit very well with me, my kind of selective morality, my choice as to who can live and who can die. It just seems very arbitrary. It doesn't seem like a choice I made. It seems like one I was programmed into making. It seems like something I've been conditioned into believing. I don't believe, you ask a child, is it okay to kill animals? They'll say no. And unless they're a psychopath, and yet by the time they're an adult, they're okay with it. They've learned something along the way. Whereas I remember being an innocent child and just knowing it was just wrong to kill stuff. I didn't need any lessons on that. But somewhere along the way, I got taught that there's a selective morality there. And it bothers me that I didn't make that choice consciously. It bothers me that I was programmed. Now, it doesn't mean that I'll end up never eating meat. I might end up coming to my own conclusion that, yes, I am okay with animals dying for me to eat them. Particularly, say, if I hunt them myself and the odds are even. Like, I really don't have much of a problem with handline fishing. The fish get mostly a free meal from me, but I might have a problem with using soft baits, because then the fish never win. They don't get anything from it in their battle. And I don't have a problem with carnivorous animals eating. Like, I don't have a problem with lions eating zebras. That doesn't breach my morals in any way. So I'm not sure where I stand with this yet, in terms of me personally eating animals. But what the documentary helped me wake up to is I didn't make that choice. It was made for me somehow, and that pisses me off. I don't like that. I don't like believing in something without knowing how I formed that belief. And that's I guess that's why I'm making this video, just to sort of share that with some of you who might be having the same dilemma, or maybe should be having the same dilemma. Whatever it is that you believe is good and bad about eating and diet, where did you learn that? Are you sure of where you got that from? Are you cool with the sources of that particular belief? Because I'm not with mine. It's not scientifically accurate to say it's important or necessary to eat meat. It's not scientifically accurate to say that a plant-based diet is less efficient than a meat-based one. It's actually kind of the opposite. And it's not morally accurate to say it's okay to kill some animals and not others. So I wouldn't have come to that conclusion on my own unless I'd been influenced when I was easily influenced, when I was a child and didn't have critical thinking and so on. So that's what the documentary did to me. So it's really caused me to have some cognitive dissonance. And I'm not sure where I'm going to go with it or what I'm going to do with that information, but it's just a kind of a wake-up call. Like, it's like how I had the same thing when I was working a 9 to 5 job. At some point I said, like, I'm basically a slave. Why am I doing this? How did I get talked into this? How did I get talked into giving up a majority of my time to work for somebody else when they make all the money? How did I get conned into that shit? And I'm feeling, and that's what led me to start my own business. And I'm feeling a similar thing with eating. I was like, how did I get conned into thinking it's okay to eat the way I do when it's clearly bad for my health, especially with my particular condition, and it breaches a lot of my own moral codes. Like, I'm really anti-murder, so why am I cool with doing this? Just some thoughts. I'm keen to hear what you guys thought, especially those of you who watched the documentary. I've got to make the caveat, I'm usually against documentaries as any source of evidence of anything, but the citations were pretty credible, and the science is really irrefutable on this particular topic. There's a reason that doctors recommend plant-based diets to people who have problems. It's because they know for sure now that meat fats in particular accelerate those symptoms and don't reduce them. But yeah, keen to hear you guys and your thoughts, Have we been wrong to mock vegans? Have some of them been so obnoxious that they deserve to be mocked, but they had a point, What's really going on? All right, that's it from me. I'm out, and I'll see you guys next time.